seen TSX provisional ballots?
Just from looking at the paper, I didn't recall that specifically prior.
Do you have any knowledge of where those provisional ballots are or were at the time?
I'm sorry, were at the time we brought them?
Yes. Did you bring those provisional ballots?
Yes, sir. Everything was in a plastic tub, if I remember right.
And do you have any idea what happened to them?
No, sir. We delivered them to Mr. Henderson, and that was the extent of our involvement.
And Mr. Watson would like to know, what is the TSX ballot?
That, I don't recall what the acronym stands for, but it was an electronic, it had a screen. I really couldn't describe it any more than that. It was an electronic voting system. In other words, they didn't get a ballot if they used that.
Maybe it's called a touchscreen ballot. From what you've said, okay. Let me ask you to review what is plaintiff's exhibit. Do you recall having seen that document before?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Was that present at the canvassing board meeting?
That I don't recall. I recognize this portion with the candidates and the numbers. I don't recall seeing whose signatures on it.
I see. Your signature doesn't appear on it, does it?
No, it does not.
Do you see the column that says provisional and unscanned ballot results?
Yes.
And that column is blank, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
No indication that there was any counting of the provisional ballots or the TSX provisional ballots?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, did you fill in those numbers? Is that your handwriting?
No, it's not.
Do you know whose it is?
No, I did not.
Do you prepare the, well, let me show you plaintiff's exhibit. Six. And ask you to examine that. Have you seen that before?
I don't recall.
It purports to be the City of Alachua Board of Canvassers meeting agenda of April 11, 2006, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And I guess from your prior answer, I can conclude that you did not prepare this document.
That's correct.
And you don't recall having seen it before.
No, sir.
And if you look over on page 74, the second page, item C, the statement, no provisional or unscanned ballots reported. That does appear there, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And you didn't have anything to do with preparing that statement?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, take a look at agenda item B on the document that you were just looking at, please. The manual count of absentee ballots. You see that?
Yes, I do.
I'd like you to glance through that and then read carefully the sentence that begins. The last the sentence that begins with the last 5 words in the report at the bottom of the page. And it goes over to page 73. Does that fairly reflect generally how you remember the procedure was conducted?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell us how the room was organized on that night?
I believe there were actually 4 of these in the front, these tables here in the front, and then as I stated, Mrs. Morgan and I were sitting in the front row of the audience prior to coming up and opening the ballot.
And the 2 of you came up, and your only function was to open the ballots?
Yes, that's correct.
And when you got up to the table, was there anyone else here at the table?
Mrs. Morgan and I were sitting at the table. Mr. Lewis Irby was sitting behind the 2 of us.
And where would that be?
Close to where you're sitting now is where I was. Mrs. Morgan was on this side.
Okay.
And then Mr. Irby was sitting in between the 2 of us.
In close proximity to the table?
He was within arm's reach from me, so...
Okay. Okay. Was there anybody else present?
Other than the audience members.
Okay. Do you remember Mr. Bradsky having been there?
No, actually, I don't recall.
Mr. Mike Canny? Maybe.
Not specifically.
Okay. Now, when you came up to the table, and were the tables resting about where they are now as we sit here?
Again, just probably further over, because I believe there were 4 tables.
Okay.
We had 2 on this side, and then Mrs. Morgan and I were pretty much centered with the aisle because Mr. Irby was about sitting in the center of the aisle behind us.
Okay, but in terms of between where Mr. Rush is sitting and the dais there, was it about that distance?
No, sir, it was closer. I would say it was closer to there.
Okay. Now, when you came up here, there was Mr. Lewis Irby here, as you described, and nobody else immediately around the table, sitting at the table. And what was the arrangement of the ballots at that time?
They were in front of me. I don't recall any particular stack or as far as how they were assembled, but the ballots were in front of me.
They were in a stack or stacks?
Yes.
Okay. And then how did you proceed? What's the first thing you did?
I would take a ballot and set it directly in front of me. I was fairly close to the table, and I put my left hand over the ballot so that I could get the letter opener under the flap. I would open it, pull out the secrecy sleeve in the ballot, put that to my right, and then put the empty envelope in front of me to my right.
Okay. And then what would you do?
Get another ballot and go through the same process, open it again.
Did you do when did you hand the ballot to Diane Morgan?
After I had pulled it out of the envelope.
Okay. And when did she read the ballot?
She would pull the ballot out of the secrecy sleeve and then read the ballot, and I believe she had 2 stacks to her right, one for Mr. Irby and one for Mr. Lewis.
What I want to know is, did you open up all the ballots before you counted them, or did you count them as you opened them?
We counted them as we opened them.
Okay.
I was anywhere from 1 to 2 ahead of her.
Okay. So you would open the voting envelope, what do we call it, mailing envelope, put the envelope down, take out the ballot, and hand it to Diane Morgan.
Yes, sir.
And she would read the name.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And who was recording the name?
I would assume Mr. Henderson.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Was there no board or something that he was recording on?
He was at the podium, so I couldn't see what he had.
I see. So you don't know who was recording?
Right.
But you weren't?
Right.
Okay. And after Diane Morgan read the ballot, she would lay it down? You say one stack for Irby and one stack for